CRM 2011 configuration, User Accounts. CRM User Account Basics. CRM user records are core to CRM access and security. Basically, a user record links a user to an Active Directory account in order to identify the user and support the single sign-on concept of CRM. Since you must authenticate to the network in order to sign on, CRM accepts that as prior authentication and identifies the user. The CRM user account also assigns a CRM license to the user. It also links a user to a business unit to identify where in the business model a user should have access to information. And finally, it's used to link a user with security roles to grant access to the CRM application and then grant specific permissions to entities, specific records within entities, and also non-entity related permissions to specific tasks within CRM. User account security implications. First of all, it's important to note that a user must be granted at least one role to access CRM. Now, multiple security roles are permitted to be assigned to a single user, and the access granted to a user is the sum of all the permissions in all assigned roles. If you move a user from one business unit to another, you drop all of the roles in the process. And this is because roles are specific to a business unit, so CRM does not know which roles should be assigned in the new business unit. It often happens that a user can't sign on after moving to a new business unit because it's easy to forget assigning the new roles after you do the move. This is a classic error. A user is also assigned a manager, and a manager must be either in the same business unit as the user's assigned business unit, or in a business unit that directly or indirectly parents the user's assigned business unit. And you cannot reassign a user or a manager to a new business unit if it will break the above conditions. Managers are assigned to users to help organize data for reporting and so on. So it's an important thing to consider, not only assigning the roles and which business unit, but also the manager. Creating user accounts. Users can be created individually or in groups as required. You'll need the following to create a new user in CRM. An Active Directory account is paramount for on-premise deployments. This is not the case for CRM Online. You should have a first and last name. You need to know the business unit that you wish to assign them to. You should know which security roles need to be assigned to this user for them to complete their assigned job. And also the CRM license type to assign. Additional information in a user account record includes contact information such as title, address, phone, email, etc. The username of their manager, if they're a salesperson, the territory that they are assigned. And also some information about how CRM should process email for that user. Creating a new user account. This is an example of the empty user form as we go to create a new account. So let's do that now. User accounts are also created under Settings, Administration. So we click on the Users, and this brings up the list of enabled users in our system. We also can switch to a different view to see any disabled users. In this particular case, there are no disabled users, but as you can see, there are different views. One very important thing to note is that once a user account has been created, it may never be deleted. It may only be disabled. Let's create a new user now. So I will select the icon to create a new user record. This brings up the empty form, and the very first thing that it wants from me is the name of the user account in Active Directory that will be used to identify this particular user when they attempt to access CRM. And it is validated. After I typed the name Richard Moore, the system actually went out and looked up Richard Moore in Active Directory and retrieved his first and last name as well as his primary email address. You'll also note that it has created some other defaults. It's assumed that he's going to be in the root business unit, but this is something I could change at this point and assign him to Sales Demo Child. I can also select his manager. And I can also select the email access. Now, this is related to whether or not we're using the CRM email router, but the default out of the box is to assume that all users will use CRM for Outlook for both inbound and outbound email processing. Another popular configuration is to configure the email router for all incoming access and let Outlook process the outgoing, or you can let the email router do outbound processing as well. This would be a typical implementation where we have users who are using laptops, and we want to make sure that we get the incoming email into CRM as quickly as possible using the router, but we know that when they're sending email, we prefer it to go out using the Outlook email client. As we scroll down, we also notice that we have the Client Access License, or CAL, information, and the access mode that we can choose is whether or not it's read-write, administrative, or read, and the default is full or read-write with a license type of full. There are other limited versions, and this is documented elsewhere, but not within the scope of this particular segment. I can fill in additional information related to contact information, and ultimately I can save this new user. Now that the record has been saved, since I've said that I want this user to be processed by the email router, it's giving me a warning. It says that we're not going to permit the email router to use this until it's been approved by the system administrator. I can choose to go ahead and add this now, or I can verify that I have the router configured properly before I allow this to happen. It's also important to note that information on this form is viewable by all users in the organization, so you might want to consider what kind of information you would be sharing. We have implemented a function that allows us to secure individual data records, which you're going to see later in this segment, and this attribute will be hidden from users who are not authorized to see the hourly rate. The fact that I've created their user account does not actually allow them to access CRM. And if you'll notice, there are no security roles assigned to Richard at this point in time. If I stop at this point, Richard will not even be able to access CRM at all. I must assign a role for that to be able to happen. So to assign roles, I go ahead and click in the box and then select Manage Roles. This will display all the roles that are available to this user within the business unit that they are associated with. The Sales Manager Sales Demo Child role that I created within this business unit is accessible, whereas if I created Richard to be part of a different business unit, I would have a different set of security roles. So I will go ahead and assign him Sales Manager Sales Demo Child role. And now at this point, I can go back to the General tab and save and close the record, and having added him to CRM as being part of Business Unit Sales Demo Child. Now let's talk about creating multiple user accounts at the same time. Quite frankly, creating a single account at a time is helpful for small implementations. However, when you're doing a large deployment, it's important to be able to create hundreds of user accounts at a time. And we can do this using the Add Multiple Users wizard that's included with CRM 2011. Let's do that now. So we'll start by selecting the new Multiple Users icon on the ribbon and clicking it. This displays the first screen, which allows us to select the business unit that we want to create these new users in. Next, we can go choose the roles. So in this particular case, I want to add a number of salespeople, so I will do that. I also can control what kind of access type and license that they have, as well as the email access configuration. In this particular case, we'll use the email router for inbound and leave everything else to the default. Finally, it wants us to select an identity provider. So in this case, we are using Active Directory as our primary identity provider. So I will not choose the federated identity provider. Now it wants to select from either all users in all trusted domains and groups, which is an option, but as you get into large Active Directory environments, this can be very time consuming, so you may want to drill down. this point, we'll go ahead and expand the BizIT Pro Business Unit, and we will go down and select the Users box and click Next. I could either manually start typing names, or I can just tell it to do a lookup, and it now shows me each one of the accounts that are in Active Directory that have not previously been associated with a CRM account so far. So I'm going to go ahead and take the CRM Sales and the CRM Support accounts in Active Directory and use those to add 2 new CRM accounts for CRM Sales and CRM Support. And now I can click Create New Users. I also could go back and scan for more in different areas to create a full batch of what I need to do. When I click Next, it goes off and creates the users and gives me a summary message, and at this point I can choose to add more users or I can close out. CRM 2011 configuration, Teams. CRM Team Basics. CRM teams are used to facilitate collaboration between different CRM users. They're basically designed to simplify ownership and record sharing for multi-user access to data. Teams can own records just like users can, although this is new in CRM 2011. Teams also have a default queue assigned to them. Teams are always associated with a single business unit, and they are assigned security roles from the same business unit, just like users are. Users in any business unit can be part of a team, even if that team is not part of the same business unit as the user resides. Teams can be renamed, moved to different business units, and deleted. However, you cannot delete a business unit until you have reassigned all of the records it owns. Team security implications. Team member users are extended all of the privileges assigned to the team. This includes the team security roles, as well as the team ownership of records and other CRM objects like reports and views. This is in addition to a user's existing privileges. And user privileges are not automatically shared back with the team. It's only one way. So the CEO could be a member of a team, but the team would not receive all of the privileges that the CEO enjoys. Assigning or sharing a record with a team implicitly does so for all members of the team. Creating and deleting a team in CRM 2011. Configuring teams in CRM is also accessed via the Settings Administration function. So here's a list of teams that have been previously created. First, we'll show you how simple it is to create a new team. We click the New button, and I'm immediately offered a screen with a team name. And we must assign an administrator, and I will administer this team. And also I can define a default queue. However, when I create the team, that'll be assigned automatically, so we'll go ahead and save. And if you'll notice, it filled the default queue box because now we have a default queue called Demo Team. The first thing that we would do with a team is assign security roles. In this demonstration team, we want to manage roles, and we manage them exactly the same way as we would manage the roles for a user. So this is going to be a sales team. So we'll go ahead and select the salesperson role for this. And if you'll notice, we left the business unit to be the root business unit because that's where I want to place that team. I was only offered security roles that are assigned to the sales demo or root business unit. So now that I have my security roles in place, I now can go and assign members. So the members of my team that I want to add to this will be Bob, Mary, and of course myself. So that's the process of creating a team, assigning security roles, and adding members to the team. Go back to the top and save and close. So next I want to demonstrate deleting a team. Now we create a demo team in the earlier example. And since that time, I went out and assigned a single record to demo team so that if I attempt to delete it, I will receive a dialog box. So I'm going and selected the demo team. I've clicked on delete. I click OK. And so now it's gone out and determined if there are any dependencies that need to be resolved before I can delete the team. In this particular case, you cannot delete a team who owns records, and I have to reassign those records to another user or team and try again. The way that you do that is to actually open the team and reassign the records that it owns. And in this case, I'm just going to assign the records to myself. And I could easily do this by assigning them to another team. And now I should be able to delete this team. And as you can see, it has removed the team from the list, and it is now deleted.